Wayne, welcome to Matt Chats, episode 1.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No problem. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. I think it takes real courage to want to come on and discuss your journey, particularly in relation to mental health. I think that takes a lot of guts. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it. So, like I say, it's episode 1, so we'll see how we get on. I hope it goes all right. But I just hope there's some value in it for yourself and for people that watch. I think that's why I set it up, basically.
Yeah, no, it's it means a lot, for people out there like myself as explaining healthcare professional, also looking for other avenues that we can use. So it's something I'm happy with yourself we can refer on and get people seek advice and help from yourself.
Man. Oh. If we just start, Wayne, with just what reason why you wanted to come on and share your sort of your journey in relation to mental health and well-being? What were it that inspired you as such?
So, seeing your post on Facebook, this is effectively my first journey. Maybe might be wrong words, but it's the first time where I've kind of reached out to sort of help, because I have been struggling these past few months. Never really been a talker, apart from at work. Brilliant at giving advice and where to seek help, but when it comes to taking advice or seeking help for myself, that's one thing I've kind of just buried my head into the sands with, really. So for me, this is one big step that I'm seeing in a recovery process. Try and get myself going again, get that drive, get that going. And if I can talk about it and share opinions, hopefully out there might be somebody out there where thinking, if he can do it, I can do it too. So try and inspire other people to open up and seek help, come and have a chat.
You said I were interested. You said then, are you okay with me sharing that you're working in healthcare? Is that?
Yeah.
Obviously, I work in healthcare as a mental health practitioner. I find it really interesting that you mentioned then that when it comes to getting advice, it's no problem, but when it comes to sort of receiving support, it's hard. And I think you might have even said, did you say bury your head in sand a little bit?
Yeah. Absolutely. When it comes to talking about how I'm feeling, or if there's anything bothering me, I've always kind of just been, I'll deal with it and get on with it, and then not realizing that it's just there building up. So,
where do you think that comes from? What do you think that's about? So that's what really interests me. That I think, like I said, you watched me introductory video, didn't you? And I said that I've got this idea that that as a society, we tend to do that. We tend to sort of bury that in sand and just get on with it. And I wonder if it's our maybe society views people with mental health difficulties, sort of that old sort of stereotype, like you still hear some sort of generations say, well, just pull your socks up, sweat your thin just get on with it, and it's so unhelpful, isn't it? This is really unhelpful, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I just wonder if that's where it comes from for you, Wayne. Is that why you've maybe struggled previously?
Yeah. Yeah, really. It's as of that generation kind of thing, just kind of get up and get on with it. You'll be right, you'll be fine, get yourself to bed, have a good night's sleep, and then wake up next day and doing it all over again.
Yeah.
But for myself, it's not me. I've known I wasn't right. where I've just kind of brushed it off and got on with it. It's my family, my friends, my colleagues. They've noticed there's been a change in me. I've had more people asking me, "Are you all right? Are you fine? What's up?" Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, I'm fine. No, you're not. But not realising until I'd eventually kind of just popped, burst. You know, the jug analogy, filling the jug up with water. And I use this analogy a lot at work. You fill that up, and eventually it's going to get to a point where it's going to overflow. And it has.
I use that. We call it something slightly different. We refer to it as like a stress bucket. So we constantly put in, you know, I like that one and all the fizzy bottle of pop analogy. So the fizzy pop is sort of our feelings and his thoughts, and it's getting fuller and fuller and fuller, and the bottle is us. It's our sort of stature, our human sort of being, and then we get to the top, and then all of a sudden somebody comes along, and it can be the tiniest little flick or check on that bottle, and that fizzy pop's going all over the place, and we're going to blow, aren't we? Well, like I say, I use it a lot at work. I use it really regularly. I see so many young people come through. I'm saying young people. I don't think it's just young people. I think even adults. I think we because of that sort of stereotype and that difficulty that we have as a society to be open about thoughts and feelings. This stress bucket is getting fuller and fuller and fuller, and I don't use this lightly, but I wonder if we are in a little bit of an epidemic when it comes to mental health conditions, particularly Western countries. Is there an epidemic?
Yeah, see, it's funny that you should say that, and I think looking at global issues we've had the pandemic, which kind of seems like a million years ago.
Strange.
But it's been a bit strange because, like, with myself, that's when I was kind of pulled out of university early doors, and granted a temporary registration to work as a paramedic within the ambulance services, part of their emergency response to the pandemic. And at the time, like, you know, when you're speaking to people, years ago, no, not really. You know, 4 or 5 years ago almost, but we're still seeing the effects of that.
2021.
2020. It was 2020 because end of 2019. I think that's when they recognised that there was something there in Wuhan.
That's right. Yeah.
And then eventually, I think come April, it was March, 2020.
2021.
The first lockdown was announced.
I was still at uni, our uni, but I was just finishing, so I caught back end of it. So when I qualified, we were in lockdown because it was I ended my last assignment in my dissertation in the May, and started work literally the day after. As like it was like saying that they started me off as like I had to be supervised by by a social worker, and so I couldn't case hold. So were you fast tracked as well? So to
see, we was just on with our dissertation, and it was due. I said June, around about May, June. That's when it was due as dissertation. And I remember the lecturer initially saying, "No, nothing's been confirmed about universities closing down, and you're not going to be going out on the road. It's in the paper. It's been published, and it's on our registering body's website." And then literally 2 weeks after that, we got an email asking if we'd consider joining the emergency response. So it were March that was confirmed, and then I was out on the road in early April. So
quick turnaround then.
It were a pretty quick turnaround. Once, because we finished his placement, there was no more placement left for the end of the year. The registering body, they were happy with that, and then to work around provisions of university, carrying on with his dissertation to be signed off, fully completed the university course and transferred onto the permanent register. So quite bizarre. Quite a bizarre start to the career. Like same for yourself. You've been studying 3 years course, and here you are, going to get you out pretty much straight away.
Straight in, no messing. Yeah, well, it's a shock to the system, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. From our point of view, I know there's some regulations were changing on how they managed the COVID cases and patient workload and stuff like that. And some of the stuff that we'd normally do, which we do now, as part of our assessment, they were saying we can only do stuff like that in certain criteria, which felt really inhumane. Sorry, when you just think, I just want to listen to the chest, but the coughing and spluttering, let's minimise your risk of catching COVID. So then same criteria is going into hospital, wanting to take patients into hospital. Rules and regulations of hospital were changing hourly, constantly being updated hourly. That's just across board, not just one specific hospital. They're working with NHS England and Public Health.
It was a strange time, wasn't it?
It were
very strange.
But never really spoke about it until me and my wife were watching a documentary and we're thinking, wow, that doesn't seem like 2 minutes ago since we were doing all that. I got a bit teary-eyed and stuff, thinking, the stuff that we knew were happening, but we didn't actually see until stuff had been kind of leaked out, really, in this documentary. So, but even now to this day, we're still seeing that effect. And on top of that, there's the conflict going off in the Middle East and the East. And that was topic of conversation yesterday from the kids. Threats of nuclear war. Is this what's going to happen? What we're going to do? I'm thinking, as kids, you shouldn't be worried about that. You shouldn't be thinking about that. It's quite bizarre, doing emergency drills at school. So it's something like looking back at my school life, nothing like that was ever mentioned.
Oh.
So
no, it's like you say, it's a strange time, isn't it? I mentioned earlier about sort of societal or environmental factors that are at play when it comes to a person's mental health. I've always placed a lot of weight on environmental factors. And I think particularly currently, just looking around the world and looking at what's on news, what's in media, you've probably got some unhelpful influences as well. I'm not going to name any names, but I think there's some unhelpful characters knocking around at the minute. I think that those sort of additional stress factors have a really big impact. And like you say, from COVID, I think what we saw, or what I saw, were maybe a generation that missed sort of social. I'm trying to find the right word. Social stimulation. That ability or that consistent access to social mobility and activation, that behavior activation that comes with that. So you got to not just a generation. Actually, I think you've got among all generations, you've got people that have start on that and then got out of habit of doing that consistently. So now what we're left with, or what I sort of see sometimes, is that we've got young people and adults that are really struggling to re-engage within the community and socially. And I just wonder just in relation to yourself, Wayne, and your journey, your story. When did you notice that? Because in fact, I'm assuming. What would you say were your difficulties? What is it that you were struggling with at the minute?
It's settling down, agitation, sleep deprivation. Just 2 nights ago, yesterday I went for a meeting with work in regards to a sickness review. I had 2 hours sleep, like the entire night. Went to bed early, but didn't get sleep until 12 o'clock, and then I was up at 2:30. So about 2.5 hours sleep, and then that was it. Up, showered, dressed. Panic. I've never. I know about panic, and I'm trying to help patients and others manage the symptoms. But then feeling it myself, like palpitations, and it's mainly like when I've been settling down on a night, trying to keep myself busy during the day, but then settling down evening time, kids in bed. You just feel it, like your chest pounding away, feeling my pulse, and feel me like my radials just beating away. And it's just, it's not feeling myself. It's took a lot for me to realise that I've not just been feeling myself. Normally, quite happy, bouncy, bubbly, have a good laugh, bit of a joker at work, keep morale going. But there's been nothing. There's been nothing like that. And one of the terms somebody said, and they said, I don't mean this to sound offensive to you, Wayne, but you sound flat. At first of all, what do you mean I sound flat? But then speaking slower, sound just really fed up. And then on top of that, just this incredible rush of guilt in my head, thinking I'm kind of letting my teammates, my crewmates down. Just letting people down, feeling like I'm letting my family down, not being at work. But then, should anything happen at work, potentially putting someone or myself at risk. You know what I mean? It's not worth, and that's kind of been one of the biggest battles I have had, just trying to settle down, because up here it's just kind of been going all over the place.
Take us back to when you first noticed that war, that you're feeling anxious or under, or panicky. When would you have noticed?
I suppose I did notice like June, around about June time, that I started to feel a bit panicked, overwhelmed. That feeling started coming up. But at the time, I got a holiday booked, long-awaited honeymoon.
Very nice. Congratulations.
No, thank you. It's been over 2 years since me and my wife got married, but honeymoon, got that booked, and I'm thinking, right, we've got that coming up. So I thought at first I was just coming up towards the back end of my set of shifts, and I'm getting ready for my leave. And even on holiday, I weren't sleeping all that well. Again, putting it down to environmental change, climate, temperature, even with the air conditioning. And these symptoms kind of carried on. So it's from around about June time that I started to feel pretty overwhelmed, but just keeping myself busy at work and stuff. That's when I, looking back, that's when I noticed that there started to be a change in me, easily agitated and snappy. When normally I'm not like that.
Can you remember? Well, would you have been aware of a potential trigger for that change in like your presentation, how you manage things, or well, there's something that you could look back on and think, you know what, yeah, that was really difficult. That could have potentially been a trigger. Did you have out like that, Wayne?
No, there has been a build-up of stuff over the past couple of years, pressures at work, but then stuff that's happened in my personal life, not going into on about my wife's healthcare and then my daughter's healthcare. There has kind of been stuff where that has gone on, but rather than me like speaking about how I've been feeling about it, I made sure that they were all right, and then still going to work like my wife, taking some time off herself, work because of like health reasons, and I kept myself made sure that they were all right, and then I was at work myself. So I do believe like over the past few years, it's just been stuff kind of just piling up and piling up. Like I said, just stack them boxes too high and the top lower.
I was just gonna say, it's like what I was saying earlier about like just little bits of stuff, just a little bit surely, just adding on and adding on and adding on, and like you say, you've been in a position where you felt that as though you need to put your feelings to one side to be able to be strong for everybody else, and then we probably get to a point where other people around have recovered, or that situation changes, and then that focus then is just all about you, and you're left with this different this different way and this different presentation. And it's like, oh, I'm not sure about this. I don't know what this is. This is not great. I'm not feeling too great.
Yeah. And I think it's taken a lot for me to hold my hands up and say, I do need help. And again, we mentioned it earlier, that kind of social stigma around it, especially a generation being kind of men don't talk. And I know that's not the case. And definitely, I encourage anybody to talk at work or at home. But then when it comes to myself, it's and that's how I've always been. Even as a child, stuff like at school, stuff's been happening at school. I'll be right. Just get on with it. So
I'm actually really intrigued as to like, because I think I understand why people don't talk, and particularly guys. I think that we as a as like a sex, I think men are particularly bad at this sort of thing. Not all the time, but I think there is a real stigma attached to men talking about feelings and thoughts, because I think that we're probably tarnished as being overly sensitive, or there's lots of different stereotypes attached, isn't there?
That's how I've seen myself as being weak initially, and some of these past few weeks, no, you're not. I'm not weak. I'm not weak, but initially, early doors, that's how I felt. I felt, even speaking to my area manager about how I've been feeling. I remember sitting with him, and it'd been brilliant chat that we were having. I could feel like tears streaming down my face. And at first, I apologise. I'm like, I'm sorry. And he's like, what are you apologising for? He says, you've got absolutely nothing to apologise. He says, I'm just glad you're talking. Because this is, the Wayne that I've not seen for a while. So, and that's how I felt, kind of weak and.
Well, that
Yeah.
your sort of turning point? Do you think was that when you, was that the day where you thought, I need to do something? What did that look like?
So I was at work, and the lad I was working with, again, he knows me as a wind-up merchant. And through early part of the shift, the first job that we got, I was a bit irritable, not because of the job that were being sent to me. I was just irritable. But again, I was running on about 3-4 hours sleep, and then being at work at 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. And he was like, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" Like throughout early part that I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. No, he's like, no, you're not. And he says, I can tell where you answered that question. He says, you've not made eye contact. You've not, you've not had a cuppa. You've walked in the station. You've sat down. You've gone and checked your vehicle. You've come back. You've sat down until first call came through. Whereas normally there's a lot more conversation from the offering to make a brew. But there were none of that. And then for a position that I'd applied for, I didn't get it, but got some feedback, some good feedback as well, and some points to work on. And that came from my area manager. Then left it at that, went out on another call, came back, and he kind of stood over me with a cup of coffee. I just remember being sat in chair whilst I was on my meal break. And he went, Wayne, and I looked up and I says, can I have a word? And that's at that point, and that's where, because he even said that, I got choked up saying, can I have a word? Can I have a chat with you? And that's where it kind of all came out. And I felt better for speaking to somebody at work about how it was, rather than just trying to carry on. But I didn't feel better, if you know what I mean.
That was my next question. What it difficult, and how did you feel about it when you did speak to somebody?
It were difficult, because in my head I was thinking, right, this is what I'll say. This is what I say. But then when we went in the room, we closed the door. I kind of I'd opened up, and that to me, that was the first time I'd opened up. And I remember like the radio going off, because we got a call, and straight away it was like, no, you're not stopping, and you're not going out on this. He got in touch with our control room and got stood down until I finished. And I felt better for opening up to him, really, because I thought, right, I've got it was like a weight off my chest. Saying, look, this is what's coming off. I can't quite put it on what's causing this. But this is what's going off, and this is how I'm feeling. And at the minute, I'm feeling absolutely burnt out, exhausted. And that, for me, doing that felt like a big thing. Saying, right, yeah, I've started this now. I've started this recovery, and then being assessed by occupational health at work, and referred for counselling. I'm just waiting on my first appointment.
Fantastic. I was just going to come on to that. Well, I'm going to sort of say, it sounds like some symptoms that you're describing. It sounds like anxiety. Is that would you say?
Anxiety and low mood.
Yeah.
Obviously, some of the occupational health mentioned PTSD, without mentioning some of the jobs that I've been to. But yeah, even that. So it's mainly been the low mood, and then the anxiety's kind of come on top of that. If that makes sense.
I was just going to ask you what do you think came first, because they often, I see this a lot. They tend to come together, don't they? And I've got personal experience with this myself. So like, I can remember, and I'm always really open and honest about this. I've suffered with anxiety. Well, I had suffered with anxiety for a really long time, and I can remember when I first started to suffer with anxiety. I think probably the worst part of that for me was I genuinely felt at that time, I'd have been 18, 19, I genuinely felt when I was having a panic attack or an anxiety attack that I was dying. I could feel, my heart's pumping out my chest. In fact, I once called an ambulance. I was that upset and thinking I'm going to die. I rang for an ambulance. I rang 999. I felt really faint, like I was going to faint. All my, my temperature's risen, and there is, there's a scientific basis to all this. There's like when you look at adrenaline and what adrenaline does and cortisol. That's the reason. But I didn't know anything about adrenaline and cortisol when I was 18. I had no idea what was going on. That was the worst part for me. That I had no idea what was going on. So I'm thinking I'm going to die. I'm thinking my body's failing. I'm dying. I'm having an heart attack. So I lost my train of thought. Where are we going with that? So that's where I was. So from that, I can remember because I was suffering with anxiety. Probably just generalized anxiety. It weren't social anxiety. It was probably just generalized anxiety. I started to avoid things, avoid doing things, avoid seeing people, because I was concerned that I might have a panic attack or I might have an anxiety attack. So that's because I've started to avoid, and I use this term quite a lot. So the avoidance waters the anxiety plant, if that makes sense. It allows anxiety to develop avoidance. So because of that, I then developed low mood, because I was obviously not doing the things that I had enjoyed doing for such a long time. So they're a bit like brother and sister. They sort of come together sometimes, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's the one thing. This is kind of the first time this has happened to me, and it was new for me how I was feeling. And the one thing I've tried to not do is kind of lock myself away, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, it does coincide. Feeling low, feeling fed up, and then on top of that, I'm feeling like I'm letting my family down, I'm letting my friends down, I'm letting my colleagues down, patients down. So I started to feel a bit panicked then. I felt like I was failing, and the best way I can to describe initially when it first came on, it felt like I was having a heart attack. And I've seen this a lot myself going out to jobs. It's like a heart attack mimic. And like myself, will always investigate the worst, rule out the worst, and like it's not this. So we'll manage this. But then having experienced that myself, it's like, what the hell was that? And somebody sitting on my chest, tightness, chest pain, my heart banging away, and then my pulse at 130, 140. We just going crazy because then your heart rate's up, your adrenaline's flowing, sweating, like pouring out, just feeling clammy, and I was terrified, absolutely terrified at first. Like my wife woke up, she's like absolutely wet through in bed, and this is whilst I was lying in bed, wide awake.
And you see, you've got a medical background, you're medically trained, aren't you? So you're really well placed to identify panic attacks and anxiety attacks, aren't you? So I'm just thinking, I suppose my thread there was that this can happen to anybody, can't it? It's not just like I think there might be a little bit in fact, it's funny. I was talking to my stepdad recently, and he sort of said that I think there's an association with mental health difficulties, anxiety and stress and pressure and low mood being with maybe I suppose people that might struggle economically. I'm trying to find it. I'm trying to find a good way to put it, but yeah. So maybe people that are struggling economically, maybe people that are out of work, or maybe people that well, in reverse to that, what he said, well, you won't think that his example was celebrities. He said you won't think that celebrities would struggle because they can afford private care or private mental health care or whatever. And we sort of said we came together on the agreement that these things can happen to anybody. It can happen to somebody that's medically trained, that's aware of anxiety and panic. It can happen to celebrities that can afford to have the best healthcare. It just comes on, and it's literally just as it can just be a click of a finger, and it's the build up of something, or multiple things, or it could even be something that's laid dormant from childhood. That's just beginning to expose itself. And I like to think of brain as being this thing that if you think where it is, it's like it's behind a wall. It doesn't really know much. Brain, we send it signals, though, don't we? So all the sensors, and I often think that a trigger potentially could be a smell or a taste or a vision that we send that signal to his brain, and his brain remembers that, and it associates it with something that's been really negative for us, doesn't it?
And I was just about to say, it could be the slightest little thing that you see, hear, smell, feel, and you know what I mean. It triggers, and I've seen that at work. I've seen that, some of my colleagues as well. Some of my colleagues are quite early on in me. Even now to this day, you look up to, you idolize, I think. Brilliant. And seeing them kind of withdraw back, look exhausted, and you'll talk to them about something, and they'll say one word, and you're like, I know what you mean. You can talk to me if you want. It's up to you. I'm not, you know what I mean? I don't want to pry it out of you. I don't want to seem like I'm being nosy or interfering. And I think there has been a few things that I have been to recently at work, and I do think that's triggered me just from seeing and experiencing stuff. I think it's right what yourself and your stepdad say. I think it can happen to anyone, and one little thing, and it can all kind of just open floodgates, kind of really. You've got barriers up, and everything kind of comes out.
I think that probably the hardest part is the acceptance.
Yeah.
The acknowledgement and acceptance. It's from a I use this at work quite a lot. It's a modality. You might use this actually when because you're going to be starting therapy yourself, aren't you? When at work.
Yes, yeah. So I'm just waiting on somebody calling me with an appointment, but it's all been dealt with through work. Yeah.
Is occupational health having that having the ability to be able to refer into that through work is wonderful. That I would recommend Nokia Health to anybody that's got that available to them. Reach out. It's unbelievable.
Absolutely. I mean, even something like yesterday, rather than my manager phoning me and having a chat over the phone, it was a sickness review meeting because I'm up to 4 weeks now that I've been off. And I said, right, I've got Little to take to school, so I'll just come round to the station. Are you sure? Do you want picking up? No, honestly, I'll drive round, I'll come round. All right. As soon as we got there, he goes, right, come on, get in car. He says, we're off. And went, got a coffee, had a chat. We're a formal discussion, but in kind of like an informal setting. And doing that, because I remember before I walked in, I feel myself just thinking, I wonder what they're going to ask me. I wonder what they're going to say. I wonder what's going to happen as a result of this. And it weren't that at all. Right, how are you feeling? What's next step? And I've explained the steps I'd already taken, speaking to my GP, speaking to occupational health, having the initial assessment over the phone with the counsellor, and then just saying that the next thing I'm waiting on now is an actual face-to-face appointment for like the first session. Right, bro. He says, I am supposed to ask you if there's anything more I can do. He says, but you've taken them steps. We're just waiting on this appointment. He went, however, if there is anything more I can do, let me know. Even if it's meeting up out of work, both out of work, go for a coffee, go for a drink, go for a chat. It's just, even if you want to phone me up and ever like scream, shout down phone, just do that.
That's excellent. That's your is that your manager?
Yeah, so he's my team leader. Yeah. So,
sounds like a really good support system.
It's been brilliant, and any job you work in, you think you think like you'll look and think, don't talk to them. Do you know what I mean? But I had this fear, worth fear, because when I wanted to speak to somebody that Friday, I didn't want to speak to the area manager. So he's in like Barnsley area. He's in charge of Barnsley area. I'm thinking he's got enough on his plate. I don't want to talk to him. And initially feeling like it's going to, what I said to him is just going to be brushed to one side. And it weren't that at all. Come on in, let's get a coffee, get yourself a fresh coffee. Come in, close door, stand you down. Right, Wayne, it's all yours. You start. And it would having courage. Yeah, courage. So this is going on. And that's been the biggest thing for me. I know my wife's mentioned Andy's man club.
Yeah. I've actually sent them an email because I'd like to get them involved somehow in what we
here,
because I think that it could be mutually beneficial. But I've not they've not got back to me yet. But sorry, go on.
No. But doing that for me feels like a big thing. Reaching out for counsellors and an accountant and starting counselling, that's kind of like a big step for me. And I said, I'm happy to go and talk to anybody about anybody else. I says, but going there and talking about how I'm feeling, I said, I don't, because I'll always look and think, there's someone else out there that's worse off at how I'm feeling. Do you know what I mean? That they're suffering a little bit more.
It's all relative, mate.
And I think that's been my biggest, and it still is my biggest battle, is doing that. But anybody else, I recommend like speaking to yourself, Andy's Man Club, counselling, use of IAPS and bars of talking therapy.
That sounds like a really pivotal moment in from what you're saying. That's sort of like the start of your next chapter. So we've had a previous chapter, and it's been really difficult. That's how I like to look at it now. I like to see sort of my life in chapters. So there's been really really positive, really good chapters, and then there's been some chapters that have been really, really hard, and it's been a proper struggle. And now we're just starting to write the next one. So it's like a pivotal moment in your story.
Yes, and feeling a bit choked. So doing it has been one of the hardest things for me, even through occupational health. They've referred me on for that, but I've also got to say, give that consent. Yeah, right, let's do it. And I remember sitting on it for a couple of days before I replied back saying, I need this. Because at first I thought, no, I'll just have a bit of time off, get my head sorted, I'll be right. And feel myself sinking. And that's kind of like the way I look at it is pull myself back up is when I reply and say, yeah, right, let's start this. And I know there's a way, like even through work, there's a bit of a wait, but it's the first time I've looked at it as a next chapter, to be honest. But doing that and saying, right, when I phoned up and said, let's do this, filled out the form that I needed to fill out. I remember sitting back in the sofa and be like, oh, yeah, I've done it. First initial phone call, the pre-assessment phone call that I had, even there, feel myself streaming, answering some of the questions that she was asking. Even coming away from that, I was like, I can't believe I've done that. Can't believe I've done that. I've done it. You know what I mean? I've done it. So it's that next step. Now I'm just waiting on that.
Top man. I'm aware at time, and our meeting is, but it's telling me that we've got 9 minutes left, and that seems like a really good place to maybe call it. I hope you found that useful, Wayne. And I worry. How does it feel?
Do you know, initially, I remember messaging you saying I'm quite nervous about this, and yourself replying. But I feel better for doing this. And if anybody, people that watches and listens, if there's anything I can say to kind of help and influence it, don't feel ashamed to talk, to reach out for help. Do it. That's the best way I can say, really. It's just do it. Don't let whatever's going off consume you, and kind of fight back. So I feel like that's at that stage now where I'm at. Let's fight back. So,
Top man.
But it's been inspiring, this, mate. Thank you very much for having me.
All I'm doing, it's yourself that comes on and your inspiration coming on and sharing your story, and hopefully, like you say, if we can just help one person to speak out and seek some support, then it's been worth it. I honestly can't thank you enough. And like you say, you're my first ever guest. So
No, thank you for having me.
top man, and you know, you're welcome to come back on anytime. I have got, you know, I've got a few others. I've had a fair bit of interest so far, so I've got a few others booked in. But like I said, I'd love to get you back on at some point. You know, when you've had some counselling, when you've started your therapy, I'd love to get you back on to have a conversation with you about how that's going, and you know, sort of your recovery moving forward after that. That'd be really useful as well.
Yeah, no, I'd be more than happy, mate. So I'll keep in touch.
Keep in touch with me 100%,
Yeah.
and you know, keep watching this channel, and I'll send you all over, and you can have a look yourself.
Yeah, no worries, mate. And like I say, if there's anything I can do to help push and influence people, even like from discussions, referring them on to yourself, I will do.
Keep in touch with me. Fantastic.
I will do, mate. Thank you very kindly.
Thank you.
All right, mate. You take care.
Yeah.
You too.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
No worries. Bye-bye.
Ta-ra, mate. So I'm just going to record a really quick outro. We've just had Wayne on, first ever guest on Matt Chats. Thank you very much, Wayne, for coming on and sharing your story. Absolutely inspirational, mate. And I'm really looking forward to catching up with you sometime soon and finding out how you're getting on. So please, would you like the video, subscribe to the channel, please share it with you know, with your friends and family, anybody that you think might get something from it, anybody that you think might be struggling, or anybody that you think would find some value in either getting in touch and coming onto the channel, or watching the videos from the channel. I will see you very soon. We've got our next guest lined up. We've got it booked in. It's just a case of getting it recorded and edited and getting it out. So keep yourselves healed, and we'll see you soon. Thank you very much.